Good afternoon. Thank you, Clemens, for the introduction, and I'm really happy to be a participant of eIDAS Summit. So today, in my presentation, I will cover our experience of more than 2 decades, what we've been doing with developing electronic identity, what is our success story, and where currently we are with our services, products, and developments. But first of all, let me introduce our company. So, company is based with the head office in Estonia, and we have additionally 2 offices in Latvia, in Lithuania. It's not a big company, as you can see, only 87 people, and this is due to the fact that, let's say, we have many partners who are helping us to develop our products and services. We are quite proud that we have more than 4 million active users across the Baltic countries, and offering them more than 1,000 e-services for accessing and using. And our company mostly specifies in creating digital identity, provisioning the services, developing the lifecycle management, and we've been quite a long-term partner for our national state in providing certification services to the national ID card. And the interesting fact about our company is that we are 100% private company. We are not a government owned entity, and this is a very good example in terms of public and a private partnership. So a little bit about Estonia. So some facts, as you can see from the numbers, so sometimes it's really unbelievable to see that 99% of all public services are available 24/7 online for the people electronically. So there is no need that you will go to the branch offices, stand in the queues and trying to get the access for your applications. It's instant access to the services every day, 24/7 when you're willing to access them. And in order to achieve such a state of digitalization in our country, so let me introduce our timeline. So the red ones, these are the milestones of our company, and from the bottom, the black ones are the milestones from the public services which came available. And as you can see that from already 1996, the digitalization was pushed by the financial sector. So that was really the time when the banking institutions understood that they really need secure services in order to protect the assets of the customers. And that was the time when the first talk started, what is the next security for providing solutions to the users. And this was actually the time when our company was formed in 2001. It is basically 2 major banks who were competing on the services because they understood that the market is too small in Estonia. It's only 1.3 million population, and in order to build a very secure, sophisticated system, it requires a lot of effort in terms of investment. And it's not wise to do it alone. So why not to take, let's say, other companies along with you and develop something which could benefit everyone. And this were also the time when the public sector was introducing the ID card. Before we had the passports, and ID card would be a smaller thing that you can put in your pocket. And of course, at this time, government did not think about having the electronic services already implemented. And this where this negotiation started between the public and the private sector in order in the future to succeed and introduce digitalization of public and the private sector to have already something now. Because it always comes to the question, should you have the token or should you have the services? And in our case, the decision was that let's build the token. So the government introduced the mandatory ID card with the certification services on top, and it was mandatory to everyone. And as you can see from the scale in the bottom, that between the 2001 and 2005, there were no services from the public sector. And that was due to the fact that they were in the process of defining and building the foundation for public services. And at the same time, the private sector and especially the banking. They were doing the educational of the market, and they were integrating the services into the own already existing system, so people were get educated how to use the services in the digital world. And gradually, when the technology was also changing from smart card to the SIM card, and then with the boom of smart devices, the growth of the applications, so we also had to change our services and also adapt and help to develop the public services. And as you can see, in 2023, the EU wallet is a really hot topic currently, and this is where we're also participating and contributing. So what needs to be taken into account when you are trying to build good public-private partnership, and how to build the digital services in order to succeed? So first of all, you need to have a support from the public sector, so from the government, political will to do the changes, and also society must be ready in order to accept those changes and start doing business digitally. Then the legal framework must be in place, because if you don't have the legal framework in place, it is very difficult to control the services. So you need to have the laws, you need to implement the policies, you need to start building the systems that can be trusted by the entities. And it's not possible to do that alone. So the private sector can really help in fulfilling those requirements. So they can really help in building the foundations, the secure eID, the data exchange platforms for different entities. So start from the cybersecurity by the design and the data protection. So all that can be achieved only with the help of the private sector. So the main benefits what we had in our case was that, yes, the political will was really there. The good thing, what the government did, actually, they numbered the people. So every person by the birth receives the unique personal identifier. And that unique personal identifier is actually linking you everywhere in the system. So based on that number, which is not a secret, so it can be publicly used. So this number is your identifier to all the databases, whether it's a population register, whether it's a land register, whether it's a tax authority. And really good public-private partnership, so not competition, because we do see in many countries, public and the private sector, they run in parallel tracks or even trying to compete. So when you're not competing but trying to help each other, then this is the most beneficial way to continue. And it was really the people's readiness to adapt the services, because for the first 5 years when people were learning, after that it came as the daily normality to use electronic services for accessing the tax authority or logging to the banking services. And it's very important that you will keep focusing on educating the market and the people, because otherwise when people are not educated about how to use the digital solutions, then you will have quite a lot of mistrust to the solution, and then may be abandoned. Maybe the factor that Estonia is a small country, so that also played a positive role. And we also want to apply the principle that only want data, that you only provide data once, and it means that it will be stored in one place, and there is no need to distribute it in different places. For that you have secure data exchange platforms in place. So a little bit about development of electronic identity in Estonia. So it's all started in 2002. Then 5 years later, with the technology change to the SIM card, we introduced exactly the same electronic identity with the mobile ID. So people who were mobile, they were not using their computers, but just mobile devices and performing the same actions, simply authentication and electronic signing. So first of all, they are saying who they are to any kind of e-services system, and secondly, they are legally committing to some action. In 2010, we had an interesting concept called digital ID. So this is not a physical identification card, but only the keys for electronic services. So similarly to the e-resident concept, so that you will have the card and remotely you can access all the public and the private services, and you can create a company, you can pay the taxes, you can open the bank account without physically going there. And with the booming of smart devices, we switch it to the next level, and we developed the third generation of electronic identity called Smart ID. So you don't require any more SIM cards or any additional hardwares or the readers. So you just simply need to have the device supporting Android or the iOS, and register yourself, and you can start immediately using it. So where we are currently, so sometimes people think that when the new generation comes to the market, it might actually consume the previous one. But as you can see that out of the population in Estonia, 99% using the eID based on the ID card. 18% of the population are using mobile ID-based electronic identity, and more than half of the population is using application-based electronic identity. So they're coexisting, they are contributing to the different niches of the market, and they are on the same level of the security. So our success story is that besides Estonia, we were able to launch the service at the same time in Latvia and Lithuania, and we signed up with the top 5 banks of the region, providing them a solution which was compliant with the eIDAS regulation, with the PSD2 Payment Service Directive, which is important for them, GDPR, and of course the AML. So the idea here is that we introduced a service that is really cross-border service. So people who registered and living in Estonia, they have possibility to log into the services provided by Lithuanians, and the vice versa. So this is a very good example to see that in the European Union it is possible to integrate based on the strong electronic identity, the cross-country, cross-services solutions. And our success on the market was so that because of simplicity of the solution, it really took more than half of the market in 3 years. So that was a really huge achievement and the boost not only for, let's say, financial sector, but also for the public sector to start integrating the solution and providing the new type of services to their own customers. And at the same time, they had the possibilities to reduce the number of physical branches. So what is the Smart ID? So as I already said, it's an application which will provide you the 2 main functions: to say who you are and commit to some legal action, whether it's a payment, whether it's a signing of the agreement. And you can be sure that it will work not only in your country, but it will work across the European Union. And if you have a trouble, so you lose the phone or your phone is broken, then there are very, let's say, easy onboarding procedures how you can again register yourself and start instantly using the service. So when we did the solution, we actually considered several important principles that were provided as a feedback from the banking sector. So the most important is that the solution must be very easy to use for the end users. It also has to be common solution on the market, that when every party starts to develop their own solution, it's really it's really costly for them to compete and stay on let's say competitive edge. The core functionalities of the applications are quite simple: authentication and transaction authorization. Plus, with the past, let's say, COVID experience, we understood that remote onboarding based on the biometrical procedures is really important nowadays to have implemented in the solution. And of course, you have to, all of that design has to be in reasonable amount of the cost for the service provider and also for us. So as one of examples how it could work. So for example, if we have a bank with existing customer base, so it's very easy to convert, let's say, existing legacy solutions to application-based strong electronic identity. So whether you are using already existing the PIN calculators or the password cards, or you can use the national issued electronic identity, or you can go to the branch offices, or you can use their biometrical passport or ID card to perform yourself the procedures. So it's very easy and straightforward. And over these 5 years, what we already had that service on the market, we actually grew with the knowledge from our customers. So we had to develop and adapt because, as you know, like when you introduce the new technology, then the new vectors of attacks are emerging, and we had to address a lot of phishing attacks, awareness to the users. We introduced IP sharing in order to understand like from which locations transactions are happening. We educated banks how to introduce the new type of services that were not provided to them before. So nowadays, nearly 95% of banking services went to the digital cabinet thanks to the electronic identity that they implemented. And what is our home market? Currently, we consider our home market as Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, 3 countries, so where this ecosystem is built and functioning very well. We have 3.2 million users who are doing nearly 90 million transactions per month. So that really shows that people are on the daily basis using the solution for the services which are important to them. Little bit how this remote onboarding works. So remote onboarding requires yourself, your smart device, which is capable of having an NFC interface, and your biometrical document. And basically you need only 5 or even maybe 6 minutes of your time, and then you are onboarded. So we, in cooperation with our partners, we introduced more than 90 countries that the foreign people who are coming to the countries, they can also have a possibility to onboard to the solution and get the benefit of the local services. So procedure of onboarding is really simple. So when you download the application, you start capturing your passport, you're scanning through the NFC interface, then you have to perform your liveness detection. You will define yourself the PIN codes. So this is also important part, that the PIN codes, what are provided, are not stored by the device. You have to remember them. And if you don't remember them, then you have to do the procedure of re-registering. And that's also a security feature that sometimes when people forget their PIN codes, they try to press the reset button and get the new PIN codes or the passwords. But here it's not the case. And after the successful registration, application is immediately in the use, so you can start accessing the services. So it doesn't matter whether it's midnight or it's a morning, so the service is up and running instantly. A little bit about what we managed to do over these 5 years. So we call it rebranding of the existing service, because the service that was so popular here came also on the radar from the countries which are not in the European Union. And it's quite interesting that we were able to make a package of our technology and provide it as a white labeled solution to the largest mobile operator in India. We had a certification authority in Iceland, Otkini, and currently working on with the Ministry of Innovation in Barbados, providing the Trident idea. So the message here is that we have the technology, we have the service, and depends on the needs, we can show and adapt that to the customer. So to summarize, what are the benefits what we were delivering? So the first one, the most important, is that we have true cross-border, cross-service and cross-device usage. So you can have that solution on multiple devices and use as you like it. So it really provides you with the strong customer authentication according to the requirements, and that means that the service providers can actually rely on that identity. And that's thanks to be compliant to different type of regulations, and that also helps us to keep the transparency in terms of the service providers. So in addition, maybe to electronic identity, so what we now also see is that the digitalization of the companies not only requiring electronic identity, but also additional services like, for example, timestamping service, which is used for certifying the action happened in time. It can be used in electronic signing, in archiving, in different technical logs entries. So if you want to mark the time, so this is the service to use. And another one is the electronic seal. So this is alternative to the old-fashioned seals that you usually put on a paper, but this is to protect the integrity of the document and the source where it comes from, and to provide the security. So let me give you some examples. So when we had pandemic, so we introduced the vaccination pass electronic. So for example, people who are traveling abroad and showing the papers, how can you believe that this paper is really the one that can be trusted? And by having electronic seal together with a QR code, which gives you online confirmation from the Ministry of Health, was actually a secure solution to provide for the country. Another example is graduating diploma. So when people graduate from the university and they want to travel, for example, from Estonia to Germany to study, and if I'm showing the paper diploma, so how the university can trust it. But if I'm getting this electronic diploma with qualified e-seal, so according to the regulation, the university in Germany has to accept and take it in. And the business opportunities with the digitalizations are actually limitless. So these are just a fraction of the use cases, what can be done by combining electronic identity, timestamping services, encryption certificates, e-seal certificates, or authentication certificates. So we have all this knowledge, and we can share that knowledge to the companies in the Germany and other countries in European Union. So what we're actually looking in the German market, so we want to find a partner. So it can be, well, ideally for us, it's a bank, fintech, telco, health sector, but also could be a public sector, and try to run the proof of concept. Try to establish the same concept what we are running on the daily basis in our country, and see if it can benefit the local environment here. And so we are also here to share the knowledge about 20 years what we gathered in developing trust services, and also raise the awareness. The last but not least, EU wallet. So as you probably know that this is a very hot topic currently in Europe happening, and our role, yes, we are interested in this eIDAS-2 discussion. So our main interest is that we would like to not develop the software again, but we would be attribute provider for the various wallets. So wallet can be from any vendor, and we will simply provide the attributes that people can import into the wallet. And we are actively involved into the discussions through the ministry and providing the feedback, because we have quite a vast experience of how to develop and trying to contribute. And at the same time, we are running one R&D project, which is financed by the EU, to learn the market, to learn the experience, to learn the use cases, how it's possible, and what is critical for the users. So to summarize, I'm still staying in Germany till Friday this week. So if anyone found this information interesting, please feel free to reach out to me. And we can, I'm in Berlin, and we can have a coffee or lunch and discuss further. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Georg. I'm sure that there's more than one person in the digital space who found your presentation and your insights very interesting. I did, at least. We have one question from the chat. I'll read it out loud because I don't think people at home can see it. Did I understand correctly? When I lose the PIN, there is no recovery, only re-register from start. Do I then lose track, for example, of documents, and have I signed? For example, of documents I have signed with Smart ID.
Well, yes. So it's one of the securities. So when you're trying to enter the PIN code, so similarly to the SIM card, so when you enter your PIN code 3 times wrongly, it will be blocked. then after some hours it will release again, and you have another attempt to put the 3 times the PIN code. And if you're again wrong, so it will be blocked again for 24 hours, giving you time to think and relax. So maybe you will remember. But if after that, again, you are not remembering your PIN codes, then yes, the system will lock your account out. And the only way is actually to re-register again. So this is a protective mechanism. So we don't know the PIN codes, and only you know. So it means that you are fully in control of that solution. And this is why we always say to the people that when you are defining the PIN codes, so try to make the PIN codes that you will remember. And remembering the PIN codes is only possible when you have the service which you are using frequently. So if you are using the service once per month, 100% you will forget the PIN codes. Even I will forget them, because I don't remember the services what maybe I used so long time ago. But if my PIN code was lost and my account was revoked, so the signature what I provided for the documents will be still valid. So it doesn't mean that if my account is revoked, that all things that maybe what I signed is not valid anymore.
Yeah, so repetition is key, repetition of the PIN code to remember it.
Yes.
We do have 2 minutes left, and I was wondering, while listening to your presentation, obviously we've spoken before, I was wondering that, I mean, you have a great outside look into, Germany, but also the rest of Europe, basically, that is less digitalized in digital identities than Estonia. And I was wondering if you had any recommendations on where to start, basically, if you already have an eID system technically, but if you want to roll it out and really implement digital identities in people's everyday lives. Do you have any recommendations on where to start, what to do, or maybe what not to do?
If you remember from my presentation, I showed you these 4 blocks.
Yes.
And so what we learned over our experience, because what we see in many European countries, that the public sector afraid to trust the private sector because they think that there will be the data leakages and maybe they are not so competent. But we still encourage to work, because you can't have all the competences for developing the whole, let's say, ecosystem in one place. So you still need to create the trust, and create the trust by providing the procedures, legislation, the policies, and making this cooperation and understanding the private sector. And what we are actually cooperating in Estonia with the public sector is that we accept the delegations. So if anyone is interested in how to build a digital society, so they can easily sign up for the eStonia homepage and come for the visit. And then basically you will have a presentation of many companies saying how they build this society. So it's not something like one thing that you just unpack and it works. So there are many components that has to work together.
Yeah. That makes sense, and I think that's a great point to end this really interesting session. Thank you so much, Georg, for coming all the way from Estonia to Berlin, into our Bitkom offices.
Thank
you. Yeah, as he said, he's staying in Berlin for a little longer. So feel free to get in touch, also through swap cards, through our platform. I'll now finish in German to include our audience again. Also, wir machen jetzt hier um 13:30 Uhr eine kurze Pause bis um 14 Uhr und dann geht es sofort weiter mit dem nächsten Vortrag von der A-Trust Gesellschaft. Vielen Dank und eine schöne Mittagspause. Sie können ja auch gerne auf die anderen Bühnen den anderen sehr interessanten Vorträgen lauschen.